Thousands of federal workers and contractors are facing layoffs, with many citing the personal and emotional toll of these sudden terminations. As workers from agencies like USAID, the Department of Education, and the EPA struggle with the uncertainty, one expert says there are ways to cope and rebuild. Joining us now is Scott Allen Curley, an entrepreneur and expert in overcoming adversity. Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
And thank you so much for having me.
Hey, so first, can you tell us about your own personal journey and overcoming adversity, these trials and tribulations that you've had in your own life?
It's almost a trick question. So you don't have enough time for that, but in my history, in a very short 10-second overview is went from in a very dysfunctional household to going to prison for 10 years for nonviolent offenses and being on drugs for many years and homeless. And I mean, we can go on, to reimagining my own existence and mindset and deciding that I'm not better than anyone, but I am better than the circumstances that I was placing myself in. And once I accepted the fact and I was taught that I make mistakes, but that I'm not a mistake, that was sort of the catalyst that helped me to begin to move forward and live a healthy life.
So with that in mind, proving that people can overcome adversity, what advice do you have for those dealing with the shock of a sudden layoff for a job they probably anticipated being there until retirement?
There's so many things. There are so many things that we could advice that we could offer. But what I think is most important is that when we're faced with challenges and obstacles all day, but the challenge and the mistake that many of us make is that we mistake barriers with obstacles. A barrier is something that you cannot get over, past, under, or through. But an obstacle is something that you can. But the challenge that many of us face is that we will see an obstacle and we will perceive it as a barrier. What I like to encourage folks to do and to get them to hopefully get them to reimagine the way they think is that most of the time a perceived barrier is actually just an obstacle. We just have to think creatively to get around it.
Well, what if those obstacles are mental? How can folks deal with the mental toll of losing a job?
You know, when there's so many things in the world that we think that we can control. But when it comes down to it, there are only two things that we can truly control. Those two things are our own attitude and our own behavior. We have no control over any other people, places, nor things. So once we accept that there are certain things that are out of our control, then that way once we accept and know that, then we can just simply focus on what we can control, which is our own attitude and our own behavior. We make mistakes all day, but not one of us is a mistake. But so many times, if we lose a job or something bad happens to us, then we will perceive that event as a reflection of our inequities or our something that's lacking in us. And that's not about us. That's about something that's outside of us. And it's really important for us to understand and know that.
And you don't have to be suddenly out of a job to find some of this information useful, but many of these workers are now looking for new opportunities. So how can they best position themselves for success, whether it's in the private sector, if it is in the private sector after years of federal service? How can they set themselves up for success?
Let's define success, first of all. Success, in my opinion, has nothing to do with how much money we make or what type of job we have. In my opinion, success has everything to do with how many people we touch in a positive way. So with that said, if something happens and we're not able to get the job that we want, what I would do and what I encourage folks to do is, first of all, just use the law of numbers. 100% of opportunities will not be denied you 100% of the time. That's mathematically impossible. 100% of doors will not be closed 100% of the time. That's mathematically impossible. So when folks are looking for another job or looking to achieve their success, my encouragement to them is to keep moving forward, because the law of numbers will guarantee, and I do mean guarantee, that they will reach that opportunity and they will reach that open door. The only reason that they won't is if they stop before they've reached it, because the law of numbers guarantees that they will.
Scott, where can our viewers go for more information on any projects you're working on?
Well, they can visit scottallencurley.com. I'm launching a podcast, which is the Scott Allen Curley Show, which the goal is to focus on the real heroes of our society and of our country, folks that no one know about, the people next door who have gone through a lot of things and found their way through it without taking a victim stance. We can't control if we've been victimized, but we can control if we take the victim stance. So I'm looking for the real victors out there.
Scott Allen Curley, thanks so much for joining us on Good Day at 4. As these workers navigate uncertain times, regardless of what we think about the layoffs, we hope that they can find strength in your advice and begin to rebuild.